Hi, and welcome back to the Vixen Voice. I'm very excited today because I have my very good friend Emma Mills all the way from the UK joining us today. Hey, Emma, how are you?
Hi, Nicole. I am really good and I am so excited to be on the show today. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, Emma is the founder of My PA, which is a virtual PA and call answering service. So, for those of you in the United States, a PA in the UK and Europe is the same as our executive assistant or virtual assistant here. And this is an award winning business. She really runs a phenomenal business. I've had her into our Vixen Mastermind to help our clients how to hire virtual assistants, how to train them, when to know you need one. I think for those of you who are listening and you're a solopreneur, this is going to be an amazing episode. And for the rest of you, we're going to be talking about time management, owning your worth, some really great topics. So hang in there with us. So Emma and her company currently serves the UK and Europe, and thanks, I think, to me prodding her a little bit. They're coming to the US soon. So I'm excited about that.
It is your prodding, definitely, but it was a good prod. It started good thoughts and like, why not? So yeah, absolutely.
I love it. So, what I like to share is, why I think Emma's amazing. When you meet her, she's just a humble, gracious, like a beautiful person. And, we met at Brendan Burchard's Growth Day. There were 2,000 people, and out of 2,000 people, I met Emma and three other women we've stayed incredibly close with. So, that tells you it was kind of meant to be. And then after we left Growth Day, I realized what a badass in business she is because, of course, when we're there, we're focused on personal development, bonding, getting to know each other. And so, anyway, it's super pleasure that I continue to be friends with Emma and that she's joining us today. So, Emma, we kind of met in a funny way. Do you want to share the story with our audience?
Yeah. You are right. It's totally weird how we both like we've come away with these friendships from Growth Day because I never
Yeah.
expected it in a million years, and it's so fantastic. But literally, we obviously both made the decision to go VIP, and there was outside the double doors to get in there. They really hyped up, didn't they? Getting into the auditorium, making it like really, really, you had to get to the front, had to get to the front. So we were in the queue, weren't we? And we literally bumped into each other in the queue. Was it the first day we met whereby somebody thought we'd pushed in front of them and we just like got
Yeah, I don't
and
think it was the first day
first
because our friends were holding us a spot in line and they were going to save us seats anyway, right? So
yeah.
it's like we're grown adults and they're like, get in here with us. And some lady was not happy that we stepped in front of her. Like, and Emma and I are deep in conversation and we just
Yeah, just
noticed this woman like scowling at us.
totally. But yeah, no, the queue was like the most amazing queue in the world because I feel like we actually,
Yeah.
the five of us all met each other at some point in the queue and then
Yeah.
just became this little group. So yeah, it was fantastic.
No, it was super fun. And honestly, Emma and I let this woman go ahead of us, but like we could not make her happy.
Yeah.
It was it was interesting because, we're at an event that's all about personal development, being a good person, like being kind, and it's just a reminder that you always have to watch yourself and see how you're showing up in the world.
So
So,
true. So true. Yeah.
but anyway, awesome, Emma. So, what I'd love to ask is you have a very interesting story because once upon a time you did what you're offering in your business now. So, can you walk us through your journey a little bit of how you ended up here? I believe you founded My PA in 2008. Am I correct?
Yeah. We just literally celebrated our 15th birthday and we had like a
Oh,
company party. Yeah, 15 years ago. I can't believe it. I mean, it feels like there was two stages to my PA, and I think a lot of business owners go through a similar thing. So, I guess go just rewinding back. So I was a PA. I went to university, did half of it, didn't really enjoy it, wasn't for me. Quit halfway through and didn't know what I wanted to do. Like most of us probably really don't in hindsight, even though you're told you should know what you want to do. So quit uni, got a job in an office. And that first job I got was actually quite a pivotal moment for me later in life because my boss, who was female, was like the stereotypical horrible boss. And she taught me so much now about how I would not want anybody to feel in my business. If you know what I mean. Yeah, she was like the complete antithesis of how I'd want to run my company. Somebody who makes you feel like you so small that you actually can't flourish in any way because you're just so kind of like don't want to step out of line, don't know can't make a decision because you think it might be the wrong one. So I had this first office job, which could have put me off office jobs for life, but it didn't. And I moved on to another role whereby basically a PA role became available in the company and I became a PA. And then from that, so from being about 21, I had 2 PA roles, both about 2-3 years long, both really, I was very lucky in that both roles were very entrepreneurial in a way, and that I was the PA straight to the business owner, but they were business owners who were like, they would get you involved in everything, you know, the good, the bad, the decisions. So I was really exposed to lots of parts of business, wearing all the hats, entrepreneurial style. Like my last boss, if you like, he was incredibly entrepreneurial. And it was like, yeah, just the stuff that I would be involved in was very much like, wow, eye-opening. And the one thing I learned from him is that there's, you know, if there's an obstacle in your way, he would go over it, under it, round the side. Like there was nothing that ever, he was like, I can't solve this. And it was like a really great learning curve from him. And so in 2008, and at this point I'm like, I guess 26, I can't explain it other than just, I knew I really wanted my own business. I didn't actually know what that would be. So like at the time I did a cake decorating course because I thought, well, that might be a thing, like doing cupcakes.
Cool. Yeah.
And I don't know, like I really enjoyed being a PA because I love the impact that you make on someone's life. Like, you know, when I'm sure you experience it, when you get that relationship really good, and certainly like I'm a person who enjoys helping people. So you start to see the impact, and so when you have a good relationship coupled with you're actually making an impact on somebody's life and it's getting smoother and it's like, no problem, I'll take care of that. Like I really loved that kind of relationship. Like, don't worry, I've got it. So I knew I enjoyed being a PA, but I wanted my own business. And I guess around 2008 it was actually just becoming more of a phrase, virtual assistant. It was definitely early. And so, yeah, I can't even think that it was like so much of a massive decision. I just knew I had to try and do it. So I literally handed my notice in with him and said I wanted to become a freelance PA. And this is what I mean in kind of the 2 phases of my PA. So from 2008 to 2012, it was me on my own. Okay. Like, you know, like understanding and just even starting, like, you know, the crazy thing about business, even though it's so amazing for the economy of the world, like what it brings, like there's no manual. Like it's the one thing where people just start it and they're like, okay, what do I do next? You know, even like university degrees in business, so it's just not the same as when you start it. It's so different, the 2 things, isn't it? So from 2008 to 2012, it was me very much making a lot of mistakes, learning, going to like local networking groups, getting clients, you know, selling my time, starting to build up a client base. And I couldn't describe it as nothing else. It's probably like the degree that I didn't actually get at uni, because this was actually real life and I learned the most that I've ever learned in that 4 years. And I think I was also hyper aware at the time that I really, really wanted to do it, but I knew there was like loads of things I didn't know. So like, I mean, behind me in the office at home, there's like bookcases everywhere of books of, you know, all the ones we've all read. And it was very much an intensive, just kind of learning period of, okay, I've got clients, I'm going to do the work. And literally, probably, would I do this in hindsight? I don't know, but I literally just built up my client base so that I had so much work, I knew I could take on somebody else and start. So then in 2012, I took on my first member of the team, and then it feels like my PA really began, because prior to that, it was me on my own, finding my way into how this could ever be, as I would call it, like a proper business. And then 2012, it was like, okay, I got myself like a little office, you know, the kind that were like 2 or 3 desks, no windows, would fit 3 of us, you know, and then just started this journey. And so it kind of started from 2012 officially. It feels like it's like, right, okay, we're my PA. I know I can create something good from this. Don't know what that is right now, but we're going to start and try.
So much you mentioned I'd love to dig into. One thing that's sticking out in my head is you brought up the issue of capacity, and a lot of people don't think in these terms, right? You had so many clients that you knew you had enough work to give to someone else. And like you very smartly waited till that point to hire someone so that you could give them work, keep them satisfied. And what I run into a lot with my clients is they start marketing, but they haven't figured out what their capacity level is of the current company. So, and I made this mistake in my financial planning business. I mean, we had too many potential clients coming in and we couldn't handle them in the back end and had to slow down and restructure, right? So I would like ratchet down marketing till we got ready to receive and then turn it back up. And I actually have a client who has a nonprofit and didn't think in this concept. And she has so many people wanting to donate to their new nonprofit that they're getting angry because she can't talk to them for 2 weeks, right? And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Like good problems to have, but also needs sorting out.
Yeah. So I'd love, because I mean, you have such a great brain for these things. I'd like to talk about this concept of capacity and maybe, for those who are listening, some of our listeners who are solopreneurs, like at what point you have some great tools for them to take and see, hey, yeah, it's really time for me to get a virtual assistant, executive assistant, like whatever they want to call that second person. And I think for most people, wouldn't you agree that's really the first hire they should have? Because
100%.
So let's chat about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, definitely. I get these like three parts to that for me, actually. So just one bit on the capacity. You are so like that is so correct what you just said, and my own little short story on that is in 2020 when like COVID hit and I had more time to figure out the business, because just like everybody else, we had clients cancel, pause, because nobody knew what was happening and they had to get rid of all of their services. And I had a bit more time. And I was working with a business coach and we chatted about, okay, we've got some time now. What does it actually look like? And I was 40 and I said, okay, by 45, I would love this kind of business. And the biggest impact that changed my PA from 2020 is that we created a plan literally based on capacity, April, like you just said. Yes. So we said, okay, what does it look like if in the PA team we took on 8 clients per month, and we did a rhythm of 2 a week, Tuesday and a Thursday. In the call team, we took on 8 clients and we had a rhythm. And then just having those 2 really simple numbers, which were the numbers, can we do 8 clients in each department? Working it back to, okay, so how many clients can a PA take? Okay, how many leads do we need to get that? Like everything worked back from those 2 numbers. And I had never focused on capacity so much. It was very much like, oh, all these clients want to start. That's great. Oh, wow, actually, we can't deliver it all.
Right.
And so when we actually, it was literally one of the big turning points for us, because we've had our biggest growth from 2020, but the rhythm of capacity for us has been a game changer, because you know what's coming and you can plan for it, and everything's like we're onboarding and we know we can do it really well, rather than lots of clients, then not so many. And so that capacity piece has just been a real game changer for us.
Yeah, I feel like it's something not a lot of people talk about. And so and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs or business owners focus on it when they have a lack of capacity, like how do I get more business? Yeah. But I think a lot of times they don't plan for when they have too much business. And, it creates a client service nightmare if you're not set up for that, right? And you're not going to retain clients. You're not going to have repeat business. And so really thinking, okay, I have all this coming in. Like, do we have the back end structure built to handle it? So I love that you guys did that. So you said at 40, you said, this is the kind of business I want to have at 45. So would you mind sharing your vision with us? Because I love that kind of forward thinking as well. That's my favorite part of being a business owner. Like, okay, here's what the company is going to look like in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Like, what do we have to do to get there, right?
Yeah, no, totally. So, I don't mind sharing that from 2012 to 2017, we grew and there was like 5 of us in the team.
Yeah.
And going back to your capacity point there, April. So the big mistake I made from 2012 to 2017 was I would add new members to the team to deliver PA support. So I had like a team of doers, but I never added anybody to the team to take things off me. So I would like
Yeah.
do this superhero thing of it's okay, well, I'll do the marketing, I'll do the sales follow up, which I never did properly because there's never enough time to follow up the leads. But then
Yeah.
you concentrate on spending money to get more leads. So I basically created a team of like 5, 6 people around me. They were all delivering PA support and all the other things you have to do as a business. And I was still delivering client work myself. And then in 2017, again, I was in a mastermind and then we chatted it through. And the guy said to me, Emmy, you're never going to move forwards if you don't, if you, and it's totally like preaching supposedly to the converted. He was like, if you don't actually take this client work off you, if you don't start to free up your own,
Yeah.
it's you are the bottleneck. So, and I will answer your question there about what that looked like. So in 2017, we'd kind of got to this place.
Yep.
And then from there, that was like a bit of a catalyst for us. So there was like 5 of us at 2017 to get to 2019, like beginning of 2020, we got to around about 10 people. And I'd say like at the time, like just literally numbers, we were doing like say $500,000 at this point. But it was very much like bit back, bit forwards, bit back. Like, there was no real like forward momentum. And I've never not loved having my business, but there were times when you're kind of like, gosh, where is it going to go? What's because you know, like one of my key things is I wanted more time freedom. I wanted more time to be able to do the things I love, like this, like, you know, being on podcasts. And so being in that kind of, it was a real stuck point that I was still so much in the business and we weren't really moving forwards. And then 2020 got some time and we made this plan based on capacity. And I literally said, okay, so when I'm 45, bearing in mind we were still at this point doing like 500k and we dropped a load of turnover because our clients had all like, oh my god, it's COVID, what are we going to do next? I said to my business coach Martin, right, what would it look like if the business was generating around about like say $500,000 profit, and the turnover was around, I think the turnover we were looking at was like around 3 million. This is like pounds. So this is in my mind at this point, sat at home in COVID, like very much dream chats, do you know, around like,
Yeah,
well, 45,
I like it.
like 45 felt like a long way away. I mean, I'm 42 now, so it's not like that long away. And I was like, I would love it to do this. And I think at the time when we were going through it, I think there's part of me that was like, 90% of me is like I really want this to happen. 10% of me thought, oh, is it really going to happen? Like, do you know, you kind of, because it felt so far away. Anyway, so we have the conversation. We spend a lot of time that summer planning and what it looks like to start to deliver that. So now at 42, we're doing about 1.5 million.
Nice.
So like we're, but the key thing was all, and I'm totally can see how we're on track to get to the 3.5 where we talked about getting to. And it's definitely not an end point by any means that like I'd love it to be 5 million, 10 million, but it's the whole conversation around the capacity, like you said, and looking at, and a big part of it, so sorry, this is the other part I should include.
No, go for it.
Is that when we talked about, okay, what does it look like to do it? I had some PA support in the business. I was still very much in sales. So I was I was very much still doing the follow-up. And the one thing that I realized that summer was, gosh, if we're really going to get to much bigger places, I need to just realize the value of my own time. And there are very much, and the tasks that only I can do. And like, it's a common conversation now in the office. Like my ops manager will say to me, you shouldn't be doing that, 'cause you need to be doing the things like only you can do, which is this, and building relationships and being the face of the business. And so from quite quickly from that point in COVID summer, I was like, okay, I need to take one of the team members, which is Bex, and I need a full-time PA. And it's funny for anybody who, I guess we'll get on to the conversation, but anybody who thinks, well, what do I give a PA? What do I need? Like, what would, you know, even at that point, I thought, a full-time one? Do I really need a full-time one? And then as soon as she started, you're like, oh my gosh, wow, yes, there's more than enough work for a full-time person. So Bex becoming my full-time PA that year. And then the second really important maneuver was Helena in my business. and she then became responsible for all of our sales follow-up.
Nice.
And as much as I care and love about my business, I wasn't giving it the time and attention it deserved, all the leads being followed up. So Helena looking after that, we were converting more clients than we'd ever converted before because they were actually getting the love and attention from Helena. And then Bex getting involved in my diary, my emails, like, it's probably not the best word, but gatekeeping time, like, actually is that important? So the capacity planning plus realizing, wow, Emma, you're not getting any further forwards if you're literally in the do all of the time. So making those like 2 key maneuvers in the business really started to propel us forwards.
Well, I love it. And I think you hit on some key components. Now, not all entrepreneurs and business owners are created equal, but if you are a true visionary entrepreneur like I am, and I believe you are too, we are not good at follow-up, right? And the world makes you feel so guilty for not being good at follow-up because we're always future looking. And so that is not the moment you hand follow-up to someone else, be it, you know, a VA, someone on your team to handle it. And it's so interesting how there's this like stigma if you're bad about follow-up that you're like a diva or lazy or something, which none of us are. It's just not where we gain our energy from. And so it kind of starts draining our batteries when we have to do that. No, same thing when I left my financial practice, I didn't do any follow-up there. Like it was all set up where I didn't have to take phone calls with people because I didn't like phone calls. I preferred face-to-face meetings or then Zooms, right? Once 2020 hit. I like to see people when I'm talking to them. It's just this weird thing I had. And, you know, so my business was set up where I didn't have to be on the phone and I didn't handle follow-up. Everyone knew if it was on April's plate to follow up, it was not going to happen, right?
Oh my God, so true.
And I mean, and then it can make your team member a hero because they're great at follow-up, right? Like you go do what I'm not good at and I'm going to think you're the best thing on earth. Like you are amazing. Yeah. So I love that you hit on those 2 things. So I wanted to talk about follow-up and I want to circle back to the 2 positions you hired that made a difference. But this other concept I heard from you was that you were hitting the ceiling of, you know, 500K, right? And I have a mastermind for solopreneurs looking to build a team. And I say scale to $1 million, and the scale to $1 million freaks them out. And we're talking about $1 million of revenue, right? And I even had marketing people tell me, April, do not say scale to $1 million. Like people can't wrap their head around 7 figures. But honestly, I feel you're always struggling for abundance as a business owner if you don't have at least $1 million of revenue coming in, because in some industries, that's only a 10% profit margin. So you're only making, you know, a profit doesn't mean that's your personal income, right? And so you know, I mean, other industries are 30%, some are 50% profitability. So you really have to know your profitability, what you want to make, and reverse engineer of where your revenue needs to be. And that's what I love. You and I both do this hourly rate with clients. So I'd love you to kind of dig into that. But that's why one of our key pillars in Vixen is owning your worth, because I don't know, I'd love to chat with you. So when you do this hourly rate exercise with your clients, or you encourage your clients, like what kind of reaction do you see, or kind of walk us through it? I know we don't have your slides, but we can talk through generally what the hourly rate looks like, because I know even in my financial practice, that was a game changer for me, because I was bringing in, you know, $1,200 to $2,000 an hour for my company as the rainmaker. And then it started becoming like, okay, is this activity, does it generate that kind of money? If not, I should be doing something else, right? So it's also for the health of the company, not just yourself.
So true. And just what you said about the scaling to $1 million, I've lived it in that it feels like such a long way away when you look at it. And then when you get to it, not only did we pass it quite quickly, so it felt like it took time to get there, but when we got there, we were then doing 1.1, 1.2, like it was moving so much quicker. I guess just the whole momentum of referrals, growth of like number of clients. And just Anita, like what you said about the you know, the worth of your own time. I think that for me, that came with so many other things as well, like like no longer tolerating clients who were no good for us, who didn't value us, who, do you know, who like, because like, do you know, there's a confidence that comes with it in that, well, I don't need to just say yes to everybody, because I've definitely done that. I've said yes to everybody, even though in your gut, I know they're probably not our vibe and they're going to like nitpick on it or everything and they're not really going to be a good client. But I feel like the confidence that comes as you start to scale your business, and certainly with the rhythm of capacity and getting into rhythm, just brings with it so much good stuff as well in terms of decision making in your business. Just not tolerating rubbish and working with people that bring your energy up and you enjoy, and you know, like you don't just have to say yes to everything. So I totally agree with that. Yeah, I mean, on the hourly rate exercise, I feel like the conversation around leverage and like delegation, people get it fundamentally, like, oh yeah, no, I know I should get other people to help me to do stuff. But in my experience with most of our clients, the first thing is, oh, it's just easier to do it myself, or it's just quicker and it's like a badge. I've worn it as well, because you back yourself all the time and you know that you'll be able to get it done, because we're like dead, you know, amenable and shapeshifters, and we have to do all these different things. And so I feel like people fundamentally get delegation and leverage, but only when they actually understand if they want to earn 100k directly to themselves, or 200k or 300k, what that actually takes on an hourly rate that they have to keep generating. So I don't know, somehow maybe I can like get it as a free download that you can have as a link, just to download like the calculation, how to work out your hourly rate. Because actually, if you want to earn, say, I don't know, 100k a year or 200k, 300k. So I think 100k a year breaks down to like £50 an hour. And when you actually think it through and think, okay, so it's Monday morning, it's 8 a.m. and from to 5 p.m. tonight, everything I need to do needs to be generating me this.
Yes.
Like if you really think about it properly, it would totally flip on its head the stuff that you would do. Like, would you like sit in your inbox for an hour on like as the first thing you do? Probably not. You know, would you find the receipts for this month to put in a folder for the bookkeeper? You probably wouldn't. And like £50 is just a nominal figure, but I'm sure lots of people listening to this podcast have got really big goals, really big aspirations.
Yeah.
And so to think actively, and I think just to like go back to Growth Day, Brendan has this really amazing thing where every hour he kind of rechecks in with himself of like what he's going to do for the next hour and his energy for it. And I think if we all did that, so if we all had like a little quick alarm that went off every hour and thought about, okay, well, what have I just done in the last hour? Because a lot of the time, and we've all done it, you think back and you went, okay, well, I just had that chat with the team member and I scanned my emails a little bit, and you know, I scrolled on social media. Like there are hours that pass and they're just stuff, isn't it? But none of it's actually meaningful moving you forward. Whereas if you actually checked in and thought, okay, the hour coming up, I need to create this presentation for this new client prospect meeting I've got, or I'm going to create this new email to send out to my list this week, or do you know, I'm going to go for lunch with this client who's a potential going to introduce me to somebody. You know, starting to think about actually how you spent the hour, because to generate and it's probably much easier if I give you the download as like a link to take away from this, because if I had to generate £50 an hour, £100 an hour, £200 an hour, it's going to start altering what I do with that time. And why would you not get somebody to support you and help you do things at a less hourly rate? So ultimately, if I have to generate £100 an hour to achieve my financial goals, to have the life I want, to have freedom in life, to have the money that I need, why would I not pay somebody £50 an hour to do something for me? Why would I not pay them £30, £20, £10 an hour? Like my mum, it's like speaking to my mum. So my mum can't get over the fact that we would get a cleaner, or that we would get our shopping delivered and pay for the delivery charge. And my mum is very much, of a different, era. And she's like, oh, I can do that. That's cheaper. I can do it myself. But, and so much to try to explain. But if I went to the supermarket, bought the shopping, and then drove back home, there's like 90 minutes gone. But actually in that time, I don't know, I could have planned my social media for next week that's going to reach lots of people and bring new prospects into our life. Or it's just a real each time it's like making a decision around, well, is this the best use of my time? Could I do something better with it?
So I love a couple of things you shared. Number one, I always calculated my hourly rate based on revenue I was bringing in for the company. So I love this idea of, okay, what do I personally want to earn? And also having that number, right? And I coach my clients on this too. And what's interesting is exactly what you said. Like your mom comes from a different mindset. Well, sometimes your significant other comes from a different mindset.
So true.
And I have a friend, I ran through our money mindset, exercise and then the hourly rate. And she goes, awesome, because her husband just got a very high up position where he needs more of her time to be his wife, like going to events. And it's hurting her growing her business. So she literally negotiated with her husband, every event I go to, here's what it's costing me. Are you going to pay me for this event? Which I thought was genius, right?
Yeah.
And, but I mean, often it's just negotiating, hey, this is why we need a housekeeper, right? Or this is why I need groceries to come in. And I think it's a great tool. I mean, number one, it's really meant for yourself to understand your business. But sometimes we do have people in our lives that don't understand why we do things. And so it's a very logical way to have that conversation that doesn't bring emotion into it, right? Which we know when we bring emotion in, we hit brick walls. So that's amazing. And, also just like your mom not understanding things you're doing, because I think so many business owners run into this. I come from a family of entrepreneurs and I still hit this problem, right? Because I'm a single female. So yes, I have groceries delivered. I have a housekeeper. I have all of these things because there's no one but me. And so, I still get that flack sometimes, even though, it's like, oh, April, how much help do you have? And it's like, I don't. It's just people, making my life better and I'm making their life better. So,
definitely. And I was going to say, don't you think it's a habit as well? Like it gets easier the more you do it. Like, I just feel like you feel the impact. Like there are definitely, it's probably 3-4 years ago, I would have also thought, well, why would I get the shopping delivered? I should just go and get it. And I just feel like as you get into the mindset of, okay, well, I'm going to get this time back here, the cleaner, we had the car wash yesterday, a guy came to the house. Like, I feel like it's a habit, isn't it? It's like a muscle to be exercised, leveraging, because it's probably like a bit scary in the beginning, because also you think, well, they do it right, well, they do it the way you want it. But the more you get into the flow of allowing people to help you as well, because I feel like as entrepreneurs, we're mostly just doing stuff and for other people. And I do think it's like a habit to get into as well, delegation and leveraging things off your plate.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so, I love that because it's eye-opening for a lot of people to think that way. Like, okay, I make $100 an hour. Of course, I can have somebody clean my house for $50 an hour. I mean, that's a no-brainer. And another thing is, if you enjoy doing the grocery shopping, go do the grocery shopping. Like for some people, that's their downtime and it's how they recharge, right? So to understand, that's why I always like to talk about time and energy management. And so this hourly rate helps you leverage your energy management, because if you enjoy cleaning your house and it's like therapy for you, then clean your house, right?
Yeah, totally.
If it drains your batteries, maybe you should consider delegating that. So it's that simple. No, I love that. And thank you for bringing up the million. I mean, first of all, congratulations. You flew from half a million to like 1.5 in, a pretty short period. So, but I like sharing that story so that our listeners can hear it can be done, right? You just have to have the vision, you have to plan, and then you have to do the work. I always like to say everything's a problem to be solved, right? So what's this goal and how can we reverse engineer into it?
Yeah. It's totally that. And I would just like out the corner of my eye here, the key bit is the planning, because there's literally a plan in a frame. Just like at the side on my desk, and it was me.
I love
it. I think it was like 2015, like this was it. And this was my plan. And basically by the end of 2015, I was going to get to 1 million. And we did the million in like 2021, like the end of 2020. And when I look at this now, I realize that this wasn't a plan at all. This was just like a wish list. It was just like, I would really like to get to a million. Do you know, it wasn't actually like the reverse engineering like you talk about. Like, so how are we actually going to get there? How many clients are we going to need? How many leads do we need to convert? Then we actually hit it when I'd done the proper planning. You can't, Here I just kind of said, this is what I would like to do. But so you're totally right.
No, I love that because manifesting is such a big thing today. And, as you know, I have very strong faith, but like, I don't think I get to sit on my sofa eating potato chips and like everything comes to me, right? Like, so, I do every day. I like trust that the right things are going to happen. And when there's challenges, like I offer it up and I'll surrender to it. But yeah, you have to go do the work. But that being said, as women, we have to understand that an important part of being a woman, which means, and again, this has nothing to do with gender or sexual preference, et cetera, but we all have so much masculine and so much feminine energy, right? And so your feminine energy needs rest. It needs to receive things. It needs to be filled up. And I think so many women in today's world do not take time to do that, to refill their cup, especially if they're a business owner, they have a family, they have a significant other. It's an interesting concept. I'm actually thinking about writing a book on this where we've been socialized to give. That's how society's built. And we're really meant to receive. That's what fills us up and makes us feel safe so we can be our best selves, right? So I understand this can be controversial, but I mean, it's our DNA. It's how we're built. And so I just think, I hope that someone listening finds time to rest and relax and restore themselves in whatever capacity.
Yeah, honestly, like leading up to 2020, 2019, when I look back now, I realize how burned out I was and how much I didn't enjoy most of the day to day because I'd let myself get so burned out. And one of the biggest changes, and I feel like it's been over the past couple of years, is realizing about the energy that stuff gives you that you do. And me realizing that, like being on, I don't know, like Zoom calls, one after the other, really, I need some time to recuperate after that, or like talking all day, or the more I feel like I'm tuned into the things that I absolutely love doing and that I can create the space in my life to do them. And then the more I realize the things that, like the polarity between them both, the more I focus on the good stuff. Like I feel like the more I'm in tune with the energy of how tasks make me feel, the more I'm moving forward. It's not just like financially, just mean like enjoying the process, enjoying life. Because I'm like, oh no, I know I really enjoy these things. I'm going to find somebody else to do this bit because it's not my thing, like numbers or spreadsheets or the operate or like creating processes or whatever that might be. The more, it's really been a big game changer for me. That because I just used to think, oh, get on with it, Emma. That's like, you just need to get on with it. It's not, that's not actually true because there's somebody who will be able to do that and love it. Yeah.
And, you're adding to the economy by paying this person to do it, right? You're making their life better. You're increasing their abundance. And like you said, they love doing this. So they're going to get energy. I mean, it's like, if you want to show me a spreadsheet, like, do not ask me to go into Excel. Like, my head just starts spinning. I want the dashboard. Like, I want the end result. And so, like, I need someone to go do Excel, right? Like, I'm not going to be in there. And there's so many people who love Excel. But I want to circle back to what we were chatting about with energy, because we may have some women listening or people in general listening who aren't business owners. And, this is important, and no matter what you do, because I'll never forget my best friend, worked a normal job. She worked long hours, but like she didn't get why I had groceries ordered in and all these things. And then she suddenly had children and she got it, because being a mom made her be as careful with her time as I was as a business owner, right? Because she had something, that she obviously with her children, to take care of them. And she was so passionate about being a good mom that suddenly our lives look very much alike. Even when she was a stay-at-home mom, like me being an entrepreneur and her being a stay-at-home mom. So I just want to encourage anyone listening, just pay attention and see what sucks your energy. I love to encourage people to make this list and just say, okay, what can I delegate? What can I ditch? Maybe I'm doing something that I don't need to be doing, or what can I write a check and fix, right? Because we all have these energy drainers in our lives. And I just think I don't know, we've been through too much lately not to have a joyful life and enjoy life, right?
Totally. And I just used to think I was tired, or
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling too good. Like, it never occurred to me that the things I was doing that day had an impact. And it feels stupid now, like at 42 years old, that only just realizing, oh wow, well, I've just spent all day doing that. Of course I feel like this, or of course I need to take some time tonight just to have a bath, light some incense, just like it. The more I'm tuned in that, the more I can make the decisions now to go, oh, well, even like my diary. So my diary is a perfect example of it. I used to let my diary be a complete, like, oh, wow, that is hectic. And now my mantra with Bex is, okay, well, definitely at least 2 days a week need to be completely free, because I don't get any chance to do the good work, the work that moves us forwards. And, just letting like client calls or whatever kind of call it is just be all over the place or one after the other. I used to end so many days feeling like so drained. And it was very much because of the way I was letting my diary be run. And I realized that when I started to put some rhythm around that and some boundaries, like now, like, I don't really want calls or meetings before 11 in the morning, because I know in the morning I just want to like focus on the stuff I need to focus on, the good stuff. And then after that, after 11, like Zooms, calls, whatever needs to get done, internal meetings, 2 days a week at least, free without stuff in them. Because and as I say, I feel like it's only dawned on me recently that it was the way I was running my calendar, or the stuff I was doing, that was just giving me, bad energies.
Yeah, I had that aha recently again, and I'm like a super nerd about my calendar. Like, I want to make sure everything's, engineered well, but I suddenly realized, like, I wake up at 5 in the morning. Like, I'm good for nothing past 3 p.m. I still have energy, but the brain's kind of gone.
Yeah.
And I told Stacy, who helps me, I said, okay, my work day is now going to be 8 to 3, which we all know I'm going to work outside of that, but it gives me time for creative, right? And I only want external meetings from 9 to 2, because we have a lot of initiatives, and my team shared with me, like, hey, I'd love an extra 30 minutes with you a week. And so, that gives me time to show up for them so they're not frustrated. And so that's one thing I love. I don't know if you use Brendan's planner. I do, but it's like, who do I want to show up for today? Who needs me to be a hero? Like, how do I want to show up? And that really changed. Like, I wanted to be much more intentional as I went through my day. So it wasn't 5 o'clock and I'm like, holy crap, how's it 5 o'clock? And I think so many of us feel that way, right? Instead.
Yeah, well, when Lexi sent me the link about sending over like my bio and my headshot and everything, and she pops at the end of the email, which I thought was amazing. She's like, because April reviews this on a Thursday afternoon, and I was like, that is fun, like that is awesome. Like, you've got a time booked in the calendar. Why should you just be reactive to people getting stuff over late or randomly at different times? Like, I loved it that April's got time booked in the calendar to get this sorted and done. And you know what you're doing then. She knows what you're doing then. Like, that's the way you run a calendar.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know she did that, because I've gotten very good at delegating. Like, I completely trust Alexi. She delivers. And so I'm like, okay, cool.
It was fab. It was really good.
I love it. Thanks for that. I will give her that positive feedback. So awesome. Cool. That's so great. So let's dig into time management again. And again, I always talk about it as time and energy management. And I like to joke it's also your sanity management. Because, I am in Dan Sullivan's strategic coach program. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he jokes like, have you ever noticed when you're tired how many jerks there are in the world? And that's not an exact quote, but basically he's like, have you ever noticed how when you're tired how stupid everyone is? And so, like, again, if you want to show up in a good way, right? And as you know, like affection is a big part for me. Like I want to show up in a loving way and I want to, receive and give affection. So if we're running around burnt out and tired, that is not going to
Yeah.
happen. We are
Yeah.
human beings. Like we are not superheroes. So I'd love for us to dig into time management and owning your worth. We talked about the hourly
Yeah.
rate. And as Emma said, we'll share, in the show notes, how you can get in touch with Emma. Also like these amazing downloads. But when you talk to my Vixen Mastermind, so Emma came on to like kind of talk to, okay, when to hire a VA, how to hire a VA, and how to train them. So I definitely want to make sure before we wrap up, we get a couple of tips. But one really cool thing you had was a time audit tool. And again, we'll make that available for our listeners. So if you wouldn't mind, kind of share that with us, because I think even if you're looking to hire a VA or not, auditing your time and seeing how it's spent is so important.
Totally. And the audit that we have, so we call it the productivity pad, and it's basically that plus your hourly rate gives you the overview of whether you're spending your time in the right place. So our productivity pad was just designed basically, and I'll give you the link to download. I'm sure there's lots of like time management apps online you can use, but the whole premise behind it is that, and I guess in the same way that you're using Brendan's planner, days can disappear if you don't intentionally plan in how you're going to be spending your time. And most clients that come to my PA, they are either solopreneurs or they're in that like messy middle of growing a team and trying to, where I was back in 2012 to 2017. And when you first say to them, okay, so they know they need help, but they don't necessarily know what they know a PA can help, but they don't know what that is or what those tasks are. And so the productivity pad was all about a very unsexy way, I guess. It's a pad with a pen just to, as you are going through the day, to note down hour to hour where you're spending your time. Because I know I've been the biggest culprit whereby, a morning will go and you're like, although you've been back and forth replying to emails or replying to a team question or replying to Slack messages, if I actually said, what have you done? There's nothing tangible to say, oh, well, I did this or I did that. It's just been like stuff. And so in using our productivity planner, it's about, just noting down in a kind of like journaling way. Okay, well, Monday morning, 9 till 10, we had the team meeting. 10 till 11, I was in my inbox. 11 till 12, not really kind of sure what happened, might have been a phone call or, and we start to look at that. And then with our clients, that is the first place for a lot of them to understand, okay, wow, I didn't realize I actually just spend so much time in my inbox all day. Like I just have it open and I'm just there, just looking at it, and you hear a ping and then I'm replying. It's like for a lot of them, it's the first time they actually get in touch with the fact that there's just a lot of messy stuff happening and it's not really the big meaty juicy tasks that move them forward to the kind of business they want or the life that they want. And so having the productivity pad, having some semblance of an overview of, right, okay, what did I do in the past Monday to Friday? Because, and one is like, what are the tasks in there that are a really great starting point for somebody to help you with? Maybe it is the inbox, maybe it is just collating receipts together, maybe it is like Lexi's done with me, having somebody who can book in client like appointments or liaise with clients to pull paperwork out of them, or like a kind of client concierge, or maybe it is somebody following up leads in there because I spent all day Thursday doing it, and actually if I could get somebody who loves it more, I can do other things. And I think it's about that. It's about understanding what I can start to get somebody to help me with, because most often people just think, it's easy to do it myself, I don't know where to start. It feels like more painful to train somebody else. And I think the second part of it is going back to like the planner, the way that you have Thursday afternoon to review things. We all have the same Monday to Friday, let's call it like 9 till 5, 8 till 5. And just by some tweaks of having maybe like some focus time blocked in there. Like I like to have my Wednesday and Friday with nothing in it, unless it's stuff I love to do like this. Like having just some small tweaks now means that I'm getting more done than ever before because I choose to plan my calendar in that way. And I feel like a lot of our clients, for sure, when they first come to us, don't really look at it in that way. They're just doing, and it just becomes a place of other people's demands and priorities and calls and what they want to do. So the priority, the productivity pad is really great to understand if you don't have a clue where you're spending your time. And two, then I think it becomes a bit of a window to, wow, actually, I didn't really leave any time free just to do the things that I actually need to do to move the business forwards.
Yeah. And what's a couple of things about that. So, one, as you do bring someone on to assist you, virtual assistant, executive assistant, whatever you decide, and if they're part time or full time, finding the right match and someone who is a professional at this job and understands the importance of time management. Because like Stacy, who I have now, is amazing and wonderful, and she always checks in like, hey, you wanted this but you have this, it looks a little crowded to me, because I can be my own worst enemy, right?
Yeah,
Putting
totally.
things on my calendar. But I've had the experience where I didn't have someone, and it was just, oh, let me dump this on April's calendar to get it off my to-do list. And like you said, when you lose control of your calendar and someone else is controlling your time, that can be very exhausting. So I just, that's why I love the service that your company provides, because I know that all of your PAs are actually employees, you're training them, you're constantly communicating with your clients, kind of coaching the client up and also the PA up on how they can work best together. And, sometimes just hiring someone isn't the magic pill. So I think, we've kind of talked about auditing your time and seeing where there might be some clusters of activity that you can offload. I guess the next step is, could you share some tips on like how to find that right match, or how to find someone that's actually a professional and this is what they do? Because I've learned that's so important.
Yeah, I do think 9 times out of 10, most of us as business owners, what we really want to start is somebody that can take initiative, can suggest, can,
Yes.
run tasks, can so in our, you're quite right, like we're consistently training our PAs, and we have this description that there's a big difference between an admin person and an exec PA, like an EA as we would call it. And we call the exec PA like Pepper Potts, like the PA that helps Iron Man, and like that for us is like the epitome of, don't worry, I've got it, I'll sort it, it's a problem, let me sort it out. Because so in terms of finding the right person, I think that most of us as business owners, as we start this journey into getting people to help us, which is scary, I think we're most often going to be benefited most by a professional PA, EA, somebody that can go, yeah, no problem, give that, okay, I'll figure it out. So having that differentiation and having some questions around if you're going to work with somebody locally, or if you're going to online to Upwork, or then if you're going to a larger agency, having some questions around so even some things around, if I give you a task, do you create the process for that? Where do you store the information? Starting to dig a little bit, because there's a big difference between saying to somebody, I want you to send my receipts to Receipt Bank or Dex, and this is how you do it, and this is exactly how you do it, and there's no deviation. That's really just an admin processor, like data processing person. But you want somebody who goes, right, I need to find a new accountant. Can you find me 3 options in the local area? And somebody who starts to use intelligence, intuition. So having some questions with who you use around, like if they look after a task, how do they store, how to do it right, where do they store your information, how will you know where they're up to with tasks that are on their plate, things like I always think that a really good initial task when working with an EA/VA is a kind of research task, because I think you really get a feel for the depth of how far they're going to go, or what they're going to give you, or how easy they're going to make it for you. Like, if you say it was a travel task, somebody could just give you a lot of links with the really long URL from a booking.com search that's just a kind of list of things, or they could give you April, I think this would be best, this was actually quite close, this is cheap. So I feel like a research task is a really great way to start with an EA, to understand how far they're going to go for you, with you, to help you and support you for sure, rather than just I've done this, what next?
Yeah, I love this because you touched on the two biggest takeaways that I had when you came to speak to our group, right? Which was this idea of the professional EA versus an admin. And I've definitely made the mistake of hiring an admin in the past where they probably would have thrived in another position that had
Yeah.
procedures and guidelines. But I mean,
Yeah.
they were lost, in this support role. And the second thing was that research question, right? Like even you suggested when we were interviewing to say, hey, I have this coming up. Could you, make suggestions to me and see how much they give you back? Because I
Yeah.
think, and I have a business coach that when we set goals, he says, okay, what does done look like? If we're like, oh, we need this and this. And so we have to paint the picture of what that looks like. So, as like, I would theoretically be a client of yours hiring someone, me also giving this clear vision of, okay, here's what done looks like. Like for me, I want my calendar a certain way. I want all the links that I need because we're jumping all day long, right?
Yeah.
So, and that might not be intuitive to someone else. And when you first start hiring, you don't realize this. So a lot of
Yeah.
times it can be really a challenge.
Yeah, totally. And I think I just want to say to anybody listening as well, because I do feel like from what we're kind of describing here, which is an EA, to a lot
Yeah.
of business owners at the beginning of their journey or in a smaller business, and certainly I might have thought this, it might feel like, oh, wow, like a really big jump. But I just
Yeah.
want to say, like, and there are EAs, VAs, PAs, like out there to support you. And it doesn't mean you have to have a full-time salary available.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you have to keep, because I feel like keeping them busy is a scary prospect for a lot of people. So you don't have to keep them busy full-time, 5 days a week. You can have somebody who supports you 5 hours a week and start. And that's very much what we advise at my PA as well, in that it's always best to start small and to take off 2 or 3 things that are most impactful for you. So it might be, okay, April, we're going to keep you out of your inbox. We know that you'll go in at 10:30 and 2:30, and outside of that, we've picked up everything else, and you'll just be left with like the really important stuff to reply to. And so 2 or 3 things that are really impactful, and then from that just start to like layer on. Because for the business owner, for the person listening here, I know there's an element of like confidence, relationship building, or it's scary to delegate. But I just wanted to make it really clear. It's not like oh wow, I have to find a salary for a really amazing pepper pot style PA, because now, like with my PA, with lots of other businesses like us, it's super possible to have someone smart, switched on, wants to help you, but on 5 hours a week, 2 hours a week, whatever's needed, and start to grow from there. And that's what's so great about virtual assistants and the industry as a whole, because you can start to get the support you need, and as you grow through the stages of your business.
Well, in my experience is if you go through an agency like my PA, they have like a research database, they have resources to help your EA. And so if you're hiring someone outside of that, my recommendation would be to ask them, hey, if you're up against something, how do you figure it out? Because I also have like a concierge, she calls herself, that helps me with some personal things. Like when I moved, and she's a full-time EA for executives here in town.
Right.
So she's amazing. And she was like, oh yeah, I have a network of executive assistants, and, we just chat with each other when we have something we don't know how to do. So making sure if they're not coming to you through an agency, like my PA, where they are constantly getting trained, figuring out, hey, okay, what are your resources to solve problems? I think that's incredibly important.
Totally. And what are your resources if like they go on holiday, or if they're off sick, or like, will I just be left? Okay.
Yes.
Or like you say, like the lady there, she's probably got some team members who can pick up the tasks. I think that's like a really key question to ask, because ultimately you otherwise might just be left with a problem when they're away on holiday, off sick, whatever it might be. It's definitely a key question to ask.
Yeah, that was another thing you brought up in our time together, which I loved. Like, how are we going to cover this, right? Let's make sure that I'm not just left out to dry. Awesome. Well, Emma, we are coming up to the hour. Before we wrap up, you talked about something at the beginning that I want to make sure we touch on. And that was this period of making mistakes, because I think that's such a big mental shift when you go to business owner, because I'm sure when you were a PA, you felt like you couldn't make mistakes, right? And I was on another podcast it's the Lawyer Escape podcast, like talking about how in the legal world, like perfectionist is accepted. So when you become an entrepreneur, you have to like kind of overcome that, right? So I'd love for us to just talk about like making mistakes, because I've been taught fail and fail fast, right? Like fail fast, pivot, and fix the problem. So what is your philosophy when it comes to making mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, we actually have a company philosophy, and it's in our handbook, it's in
I love
everything we
it.
talk about. And like literally the phrase is that like, we're going to back you if you make a mistake, we back you. If you try and cover up the mistake, then we have a problem.
Yes.
But if like, we totally get it. I've made mistakes. I still make mistakes. If you make it, that's completely fine. And we're going to work out a way with you to make sure it doesn't happen again, or what we could have done differently. So it's like very openly talks about in my PA as well, that we totally get that. And we're going to be on your side, but just if you cover it up, then that's a problem. Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of my philosophy, it's about, and I feel like you've talked about it before, just like about having grace with yourself as well to do that. Like I have literally like sweat at night when I've thought, oh wow, I talked to this guy a month ago and I never got back to him with like say a lead follow up, like and I've got into this kind of mode of, wow, it's really embarrassing to call him now. When the reality is, in most of these, I mean, I know some mistakes are bigger than others, but in that, like, in the reality is in that actually then when you just actually go and ring him, he's like, oh yeah, no, fine, no, I did want to speak to you. Yeah, did you like people are human, and most often what you think, like I beat myself up about, it's not actually a thing at all. And most sane, normal business owners are like, oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, just pop it over to me now, or do this, or do you know? It's like, so I think a lot of my philosophy is just having grace and peace with myself. That Emma, I know that 95% of the time I'm trying to do good stuff, move forwards, and so yeah, mistakes happen. And now I'm definitely. It's like this summer, so we're launching a new product in the UK. It's all about follow-up. It's literally called My Follow-Up.
I love it.
Launching a product definitely has lots of mistakes and figuring things out as you're like operationally and how we deliver it and this and what makes it world class. And so in that we're learning a lot and learning fast as well. And of course we make mistakes. And I think you think about failing fast is really important. But I do think for myself, my number one game changer was forgiving myself, was allowing myself to be like, okay, yeah, everybody makes mistakes. This is not the end of the world. This is not the worst thing that's ever happened. It's like part of the journey. And I guess part of it comes with age, doesn't it? And just that, okay, well, I realize all the mistakes and where they lead you to and how they move you forward. So yeah, I would say my philosophy on it is once I had peace with myself, that as long as your intentions are good and you're moving forwards, it's just part of where you get to. It's part of the story.
Yep. It's part of the entrepreneurial roller coaster. But, and to add to that, one thing that gave me peace is when I started owning all the failures and mistakes, like even a mistake in hiring, right?
Yes.
Like, because if it's ultimately my responsibility and my fault, I can fix that. So I think we have to be careful of staying out of victim mentality or pointing fingers, right? Because it just is what it is. Let's go fix it. So for some reason, that gave me a lot of peace, just starting to own everything and saying, hey, ultimately as the business owner, everything's my fault, right?
Oh my gosh,
and that's okay. Like, it's fine.
Definitely a mastermind group that I'm in the UK, and the guy's called Nigel Boschel. He's quite well known in the UK, and he's a bit like the UK's Dan Kennedy. When I go to his meeting room, there is a huge vinyl on the wall, and it just says everything in business is your fault. Yes. And I think it's like some people look at it and they don't like it, but I think it's super liberating because I think once you fully, like, I could make a decision tomorrow that's can push us forwards. It could be something that we learn from. It's like, I think once you really, really get that everything's your fault, but you're also in charge of all the good stuff as well that happens. Right. I think it is very it was for me very liberating that, like, yeah, actually, if we've not done so well last month, it is my fault, but what could I have done better? What,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always learning, always like looking forward to how I can change things. I think it's a great phrase, and I don't think it's a victim mentality. It's just like you say, like taking ownership. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
like I decided to play this game, I can make changes.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, there are only two things on earth we have control over, and that's our actions and our reactions, right?
Yeah,
So if it's your fault, okay, I'm in the command seat. Like, I can handle this, right? But if it's someone else's fault, I can't control this person's actions or reactions. I can only
totally.
control mine.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, that's kind of how I live my life. I think it's super important. But oh my gosh, Emma, we could talk about so many more
I know.
things, but I want to honor your time, and we have to catch up personally soon.
Yes, we do.
But what I'd love to do is kind of wrap up. I like to ask all our guests because we do talk a lot about feminine energy and Vixen and, balancing the masculine and the feminine. So if I had to ask you, what does it look like when you are in your most feminine energy, like when you're really feeling that? So can you paint us a picture or describe that?
Wow. Yes. And I'll definitely say that what I feel like in my 30s, I very much only kind of thought I had masculine energy. And I don't know whether
Yeah.
that's because I'm a business owner and whether most of the people around me were male and whether I just thought that was what I had to be like.
Yep.
I don't feel like I ever honored the feminine energy. And
Yeah.
then in the past 2 years specifically, and very much so at Growth Day, like meeting you
Hmm.
five ladies. I feel like I actually feel like this is a what's the word? I'm in this middle of in the middle of like figuring this out more and more because I don't feel like
Yeah.
I've ever actually honored my feminine energy
Hmm.
as much. Um I think this summer feels like lots of changes going on for me, and most recently we've moved out of the
Yeah.
city centre of Manchester to a more leafier suburb. And wow, like my energy levels and my just day-to-day contentedness have like really risen. And so I
Yeah.
feel like with the feminine energy I'm very connected to like green nature, peace, journaling. And I hope it doesn't sound cliched, but I feel like I'm actually just discovering this summer. That
Yeah.
I used to live very kind of like right in the city centre. Everything was very hectic, lively all of the time, and I never really allowed myself to have quiet or downtime or
Hmm.
moments. And so I am very much enjoying that this summer and discovering it more and more of what it looks like to, yeah, to not just be in the center of everything happening, like
Yep.
just to kind of be more at peace with myself and actually what I want going forwards. And so, yeah, it feels like those two things are very connected at the moment this summer.
I love it. So, what's interesting is in the same building, I moved from one apartment to another, and I went from City View to Green Hills because I'm on the outskirts of Nashville. And I've only been in this place for 2 weeks. I'm already sleeping better. Like I
No
wake
way.
up, I feel good in the morning. So yeah, I just wanted to share
Oh,
that because I
wow.
think often people are not aware of their environments and
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
seeing that green, being more immersed in nature. I think it's
yeah.
so important. If you have a backyard, go walk in your grass barefoot. Like go play with your kids outside. I mean, it really is amazing.
Yeah,
And we're on Zoom all day these days. Like
yeah,
we're in these artificial environments. Like if you can
yeah,
connect to nature and earth and, living, I think it's so important. Get some sunshine, get some fresh air. It's important.
yeah. I am
Yeah.
really feeling that at the moment. And I think a couple of years ago, I might have been like, oh, really? But
Oh,
like,
me
actually, I'm
too.
like, oh, wow. It's actually a thing. It's actually a thing. Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, so final question I like to ask because I like to highlight how we women are all different and we're multifaceted creatures, even within ourselves. So, if you had to put a color to your femininity, what color would you put?
Um, Definitely a like what's like a pale, like a kind of sage green. That is the color that
Love it.
I definitely am have a lot of affinity to at the moment, like a sage green color. Yeah.
That's so awesome. All right. So I just want to let our audience know again, you can find all of Emma's information below. You'll also get her amazing downloads that she's so kind to share with us. And we're going to wrap up here. But as we head out, Emma, I always like to say I feel the world needs a lot more love. That's kind of my message. So if you had a message to share with our audience, what would it be?
Wow. I would definitely just say that everything is possible. And I hope in this podcast I kind of shared my story of how I felt like stuck for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And what I wanted, I didn't really do. I said like there was that 10% I didn't think was possible.
Yeah.
And the more you move forwards to it, the more possible it becomes. And so without sounding again too cliched, like everything you want, think about, journal, where your energy and focus goes, it's all completely possible.
Oh my gosh.
And
I hear
Ralph,
Ralph.
Ralph.
We forgot to invite Ralph in.
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I've got something to say. Oh dear.
Awesome. So if you, I'd love to encourage you, follow Emma on Instagram. She shares amazing content. You will get to know Ralph on Instagram because he's always around.
He features a lot.
He wanted to be seen and heard today. So anyway, Emma, thank you so much. And to everyone out there, have an amazing week. We look forward to talking to you soon. And Emma, thank you for your time today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I've absolutely loved it. Like you say, I think we could carry on for hours, but it's been fantastic.
It has. Have a great day.